Now, once again, Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome back to The World Over. Congress passed a continuing resolution this week funding the government and avoiding a shutdown through September. But programs that President Trump vowed to defund are still receiving funds. And the GOP took another shot at overhauling the Affordable Care Act, but it stopped short of a full repeal and replacement. Is there a messaging problem at the White House that is delaying the Trump agenda? With analysis, I'm joined on set by political consultant and former advisor to George W. Bush, not to mention Mrs. James Carville, Mary Matalin.
And friend of Raymond.
And friend of Raymond. Thank you for being here.
FOR.
I want to start with what we saw today. Earlier, Nancy Pelosi came out after the GOP squeaked this health care reform through, and here's what she had to say, followed by the president. Watch.
Well, let me just say that they have this vote tattooed on them. This is a scar they will carry. Why would they vote for it if they don't think it's worthy of support because the Senate won't change it? From what I hear the Republican senators saying, they don't have any interest in passing this bill as is.
People were suffering so badly with the ravages of Obamacare. And I will say this, that as far as I'm concerned, your premiums, they're going to start to come down. We're going to get this passed through the Senate. I feel so confident.
Mary Matalin, are you confident that this can pass through the Senate in this form?
I'm confident that Obamacare will be repealed to the extent that premiums are going to go down. That's what Donald Trump promised. Sometimes we talk in our language. We're in a parallel universe. What people here in New Orleans and outside the Beltway, places that we love, not that we don't love the Beltway, all they want is results. And that's who Donald Trump is. He lives in Realville, as Rush says. And he goes by results, and he's going to get the results. Premiums are going to be lowered. Obamacare is already dismantling itself. So all this gobbledygook, not to mention Mrs. Pelosi's endless gobbledygook, it's like white noise. And I also think the senators who, whatever they're saying now, will have to face the electorate that voted Trump in the midterms, and several of whom were elected in our blue senators being running in red Trump victory states. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident.
During that final vote on the House floor, it was only one vote over the needed 216. The Democrats yelled to their Republican brethren, hey, 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 goodbye, as if to say, when the midterms come, you're out of here. Some of them were even waving. Is this a political wedge issue? Do you think there's any credibility to that?
This is insane. So let's go back to the parallel universe. Do you think people whose premiums have doubled and tripled and whose deductibles are unaffordable and everything else that's gone wrong because of Obamacare are impressed with, hey, hey, goodbye, singing? That's like, no, they're going to, I will say, should be rewarded politically and substantively are the Freedom Caucus, who made the first go-around, made this much better than the first go-around. There's still improvements to be made, but there are market mechanism insertions in this that were absent in the first go-around. So we have to remember that ever since Obama's cram down, the opposition to it has been intense. It was so intense it led to the rise of the Tea Party, and it led to the Republicans winning majorities in both chambers. So I think politics is the wind under their wings is on the side of getting rid of it and making health care affordable.
And according to this plan they passed today, Planned Parenthood is cut, but only for 1 year. Does that go far enough?
No, but politics is the art of the possible. You got to pick your battles. I think it does include or will include options for states to defund Planned Parenthood. And if you're a Federalist, then I'd say let the states do what they want to do.
Okay. I want to move on to this religious liberty executive order the president signed today. He was surrounded by religious leaders, including the Little Sisters of the Poor. This is what the president said as he signed that executive order in the Rose Garden today. Watch.
No American should be forced to choose between the dictates of the federal government and the tenets of their faith. That is why I am today directing the Department of Justice to develop new rules to ensure these religious protections are afforded to all Americans.
Now, there has been some reaction already from certain people in the Catholic world, even in the conservative ranks. Robbie George came out and said this religious liberty executive order is meaningless, no substantive protections for conscience. The Alliance Defending Freedom said that this is too vague. Ralph Reed, who was sitting next to me at this Rose Garden ceremony, he said this is only the first bite at the apple, not the last. What do you make of those critiques and comments?
I was humbled to serve on and still stay in touch with Catholics for Trump. Trump won the Catholic vote, which was dispositive in his ultimate victory. No executive order is as good as a statutory revocation of the Johnson Amendment in that case, and other conservatives, particularly Catholics, don't think it goes far enough in protecting those people of faith who do not want to provide abortions and contraception. But the key is what the president just said, that if to get the statutory revocation of Johnson and implementation of the protection for people of faith against violating those tenets of their faith requires what he is allowing his cabinet to do, which is a huge, huge thing. He's changing the conversation. We're talking about it and we're moving in the right direction. You know, I'm going to make a broader point.
Okay.
The founders devised and divined a federalist system that would be slow, exasperatingly slow and deliberate. But we're changing the conversation. We're talking about completely different things. And people of faith should watch the president's patience, perseverance. I'm very impressed with everything he's done so far.
And though we talked about the Johnson Amendment, that Johnson Amendment would fine or revoke the IRS nonprofit status from churches that advocated for a particular candidate. The president is erasing that, nullifying in some ways.
He is, but all he's saying is that he's saying the IRS has greater latitude not to enforce it. Or again, parallel universe. So people out there are like, what? What does that mean? What it means is wait to see what Sessions is going to do, which will be the ultimate revocation.
Right, and that's the big, to my eye, that's the bigger news here, and nobody's talking about it. He's empowering the Department of Justice to go out.
That's because you're smart and nobody else gets it. They're all focused on free contraception.
Yeah, but that's the more important thing, to go agency by agency and rewrite rules and regs. With Jeff Sessions doing that, that will have far-reaching effects.
And Catholics should keep an eye on this, because just allowing agencies to not to have such strict enforcement goes away if there's and there will be another administration. So this has to be codified in the law.
And then there was a big announcement today, and this shouldn't be forgotten either.
Wow.
The president is making his first foreign trip before the G7 in just a few weeks. He's going to Israel, he's going to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and he's going to Rome. So it's Catholics, Muslims, and Jews. He's hitting all the bases, and that's his first visit. The significance of that.
It's huge. Again, we're changing the conversation. We're putting people in a room. We're probably not, nothing happens overnight, but just the convening of people of different faiths together, as this Pope and his predecessors have done, reaching out to other faiths. This is awesome. Yeah. And I love that it's his first.
Yeah, well, and I'm told we're going to see some amazing things come out of that Saudi Arabia visit, that there are some plans afoot that I think is going to be incredible.
This is something that is so under-expressed or undervalued or under-discussed. His relationships with the Saudis, who are absolutely critical for defeating ISIS, for protecting Israel, for stability in the region, that he has made in great strides. And your viewers should understand that when you're dealing in the Mideast and you're dealing with those leaders, you can't believe everything they say or what anybody says, because so much happens. It is by definition not a transparent process, but that he's met with whom he's met and is meeting with whom he plans to meet is a huge
Big league meeting.
Yes, big league.
What do you expect, or what should the president say to the Pope when they meet? Because these two men have been depicted as being on opposite sides of politics and just about everything else. Are there points of commonality that they can stress and work on together? Given their differences on climate change, refugees, so many other, the wall, so many other things.
Well, all of our friends in the Vatican say no doctrines have changed. If were I the president, which would never happen, but as a human being who has been in the presence of the Pope, I doubt that Trump is going to come in with his litany of political requests. I think he, like all of us, will be in awe and the spirit of the moment, and that says more than needs to be said. And the Pope doesn't, despite how he's interpreted, I think he's not meaning to be political in the sense that we understand politics.
Right, but he's a man of South America. He has his own view of the world, and I think sometimes that prism gives voice to things that we in the North can't quite. We don't see it the same way. To him, it seems very average in its everyday life. To us, it seems like, oh my God, what's happening?
Because we look at it through our prism of politics. But what this Pope has managed to do is, in his way, change the conversation and inspired not just Catholics, but youth and people of all faiths to take a look at the critical necessity of faith in the public square. You don't have to agree with the interpretation of what he's saying. And again, no doctrines have been changed. So I like going to the Vatican with you. I'm going to be for the Pope, and that would not advise President Trump do anything except sit back, as we all do.
Take it in.
Yep.
So May 24th, the Vatican has confirmed the meeting's taking place on May 24th.
Are you going?
I may go. We'll see.
Well, can I go with you?
You may come along. If I go, you may come, and you don't even have to carry the suitcase. Look, before I let you go, there was this stopgap measure to keep the government from shutting down, but. And this is kind of astounding, given that you have a Republican Congress that was brought in by people who expected cuts in government, drain the swamp. They're spending $15 billion more. They added $15 billion more to the defense budget and military budget, $1.5 billion for border security, but no money for the wall. The NEA, PBS, all these things that Trump wanted cut in his own budget, they funded above, in some cases, the levels that they were before. This is just to keep the government running to September. $1 trillion, Mary? People ripped their hair out when President Obama and Nancy Pelosi shoved $1 trillion stimulus package through. Now you hear nothing. It's like, oh, this is a victory. How is this a victory?
It is not Trump's budget. And what the Trump people will tell you and have been saying is that there is more representation of the president's thrust, if not the actuality of in this first budget, which isn't his, and that his first budget will be in the fall. And I was happy to hear him talk about a shutdown, should that not happen. Republicans have cognitive dissonance on the shutdown. It's demonstrably, irrefutably true that the first time the government was shut down over budget issues, Republicans picked up seats.
Back in the Gingrich days.
Yes, and people out there want the government to shut down. I think Republicans would be rewarded for shutting down the budget. And by the way, the government never shuts down. It's like the Ebola virus. Until the host is dead and gone, the government just keeps functioning.
Yeah, there are some functions
and
that never shut.
And destroying its host.
So you got to curtail isolate the cancer. You mentioned a moment ago President Trump this past week saying, he tweeted out, our country needs a good shutdown in September to fix this mess. But then you had his Office of Management and Budget chief come out and say, oh, we don't want to shut down. There seems to be this mixed messaging. The president says something and then another member of the team comes back and either refutes it or finds a way around it. Is there a messaging problem at the White House?
No, I think there's a parallel universe reality.
So the problem is ours?
No, I think that you cannot not address policy makers, and they speak in one language. But Trump is talking to the people that elected him. And in every case where there's been message disparity, we're the ones in the media world that are parsing every word, and it's never been more true than what Selena Zito said about him in the campaign. Thinking people in the real world take him seriously, not literally, and the press, the fake news, as he's right to keep calling them, take him literally, literally. I say when there's mixed messages, the president has always prevailed.
Do you think there'll be a shutdown in September?
No, I wouldn't. I would hope that there could be, that it's a real possibility, but I'm not afraid of it, and I hope he does get more. I mean, you got to pick your battles. You can't shut the whole thing down over some single issues here and there, but there should be more of what he wants. But as for this not funding the wall, again, he lives in Realville. He measures his success by results, and the results are illegal immigration has decreased 60%. I mean, he's changed the conversation. So you can call it the presence of a real wall, which doesn't exist, or you can call it the presence of enforcement of the current immigration laws, which have not been enforced, which has succeeded in doing what the wall is supposed to do. So let's measure results, not verbiage and hyperbole.
Mary Matalin,
Who loves
always
you, baby.
a pleasure, my dear. Love you. Thank you for being here.
You're taking me to the Vatican. All your millions of people see that.
I've got your checkered bags in my office. We're going. Mary's most recent book, Love and War, which includes a wonderful celebration of our hometown of New Orleans, is still available at bookstores everywhere and online. It's a wonderful read.